If you have kids or even care about kids, you might want to watch this video in full. I'm Drea Humphrey with Rebel News, and am I the only one wondering to myself whether or not Canada could end up the next New Zealand? What I mean by that is, will the foreshadowed doomsday for the upcoming fall season that our top doctor, Dr. Theresa Tam, refers to as an upcoming period of challenge, will that period include the government and politicians passing unconstitutional mandates that could go as far as to separate families against their will, all in the name of COVID-19? On June 8th, New Zealand lifted nearly all of their COVID-19 restrictions, including social distancing, labeling New Zealand as COVID-19 free. BBC News reported that the country had moved into level 1, where social distancing is not required and there are no limits on public gatherings, but borders still remain closed to foreigners. Free at last, I'm sure many of them thought to themselves, but that sense of freedom was very short-lived. New Zealand saw a very small spike of only 13 positive cases, and after that, News Hub reported that New Zealand's Director General of Health, Dr. Ashley Bloomfield, declared that all confirmed COVID-19 cases will be required to recover in a mandatory quarantine facility. I'm sorry, what? Did he just say all confirmed cases? Meaning cases, which are actually human beings, will have no choices but to recover in isolation facilities, all because 13 people tested positive with the virus? Furthermore, does that word all encompass those who are completely capable of recovering in the comfort of their own home, possibly even asymptomatic, feeling amazing, but got tested because their contact tracing app dinged and suggested they do so? An even more troubling question is, what about the children who test positive? Thankfully, kids statistically have an extremely low risk of succumbing to the virus, yet it appears with this mandate they could be taken away from their parents to go isolate in some facility. Surely this cannot be true. I dug deeper into what I consider a drastic overreach from the government and was shocked to find that East Australia also thinks such extreme measures of control is completely a-okay, as long as it's masked under the fight against COVID-19. Now, I'm not a lawyer, but let's take a look at this excerpt from page 33 of South Australia's COVID-19 Emergency Response Act. In a section called 25A, Removal of Children, it reads, without derogating from Section 25, an authorized officer may, for the purpose of ensuring compliance with any direction under that section, remove a child from any premise, place, vehicle, or vessel to place of residence of the child, or to a hospital or quarantine facility as the authorized officer thinks fit, and may in doing so use reasonable force as necessary. It appears that in Amendment Section 25, the Act called to remove the words use such force as reasonably necessary. But I'm not sure how anyone is going to grab my kids against my will without using some form of force. So what about Canada? Are we next? Again, I'm not a lawyer, but in British Columbia, where I live, it sure looks like we have some of these laws that leave the door wide open to allow such mandates. I've already pointed out in some previous videos how many of the mask mandates in Canada are passed with very low case counts. The BC Provincial Emergency Act gives great powers to the government, as it reads in Section 26, called Minister May Temporary Quarantine Facility 26. The minister may, by order, designate a place as a quarantine facility if the minister reasonably believes that that temporary use of the place for the purpose of isolating or detaining infected persons is necessary to protect public health, meaning they can take one's property over for COVID-19 patients. Additionally, located in Calgary, the Justice Centre of Constitutional Freedoms has been sounding the alarm for Canadians regarding new laws they refer to as unconstitutional power grabs. One such Albertan law is Bill 10, which was passed on April 2nd, 2020, and amended the Public Health Act. The Justice Centre says the unconstitutional legislation was rushed through and gives the Alberta government sweeping new powers to create new laws without legislation assembly approval, adding that any one single politician can now also write, create, implement, and enforce any new law simply through ministerial order without the new law being discussed, scrutinized, debated, or approved by the Legislative Assembly of Alberta. Since when has it ever been a good idea to give one politician that much power? Now, according to the Justice Centre, Premier Kenney previously acknowledged public concern regarding Bill 10 and promised revisions to amend it, but instead of undoing Bill 10's unconstitutional delegation of power from the legislator to single cabinet ministers, Bill 24, which has more recently passed both its first and second readings, will actually extend upon the powers outlined in Bill 10. And it's what the Justice Centre refers to as one more dangerous authoritarian law. So if continuing to live under these dangerous and authoritarian laws can lead to people, Canadians, being mandated to go into a COVID-19 facility, I'd say it's not only unconstitutional, it's illogical. Haven't we learned, if anything, from our death toll that if you have COVID-19 and you are recovering in a facility where others are concentrated there with the same virus, your chances of dying go up, not down. U.S. Governor Andrew Cuomo has found himself in hot water as critics have come after him for the fact that more than 6,600 patients have died in nursing homes as a result of COVID-19, adding that Cuomo ordered nursing homes to accept patients that had tested positive for the virus at the start of the pandemic. Now, wait a second. I thought we were quarantining healthy people during the lockdown because we were protecting elderly and immune-compromised people, not because we were going to be shoving a bunch of COVID carriers into nursery homes alongside the most at risk. Not to mention, in June, the Globe and Mail reported that 81% of COVID-19 deaths in Canada were from long-term care facilities. 81%, that's huge. Mandated quarantine facilities? I think that's a big enough power grab, government, for one pandemic. Now, how would you guys handle being told that you or someone you love has to go recover in a COVID-19 facility? Drea Humphrey with Rebel News. Here at Rebel News, we work hard to bring you the other side of the story. If you enjoy watching us do so, please head to helprebelnews.com. We appreciate your support.